Commander Lee Dae-hyun stood at the window of his ship looking out at the stars. He had been a soldier for 20 years, fighting battles across the galaxy, but today felt different. Today, the enemy was not some alien army or space pirates. Today, the enemy was the Galactic Council itself. The message had come 3 hours ago. All human ships were to report to the edge of Council space immediately. No weapons, no tricks. Just come and listen to what the Council had to say. Lee Dae-hyun knew it was a trap, but he also knew they had no choice. His ship, the Iron Wolf, was one of 50 human vessels floating in the dark space near the Council's giant station. The station was called Nexus Prime, and it was bigger than most planets. Millions of aliens lived and worked there, representing hundreds of different species from across the galaxy. "Commander," said his second officer, a young woman named Han Soo-young, "we're getting a signal from the Council. They want all ship commanders to board the station for a meeting." Lee Dae-hyun nodded. He had expected this. "Tell the other ships to stay ready. If something goes wrong, they need to be prepared to run." "Yes, sir." As Lee Dae-hyun walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, he could feel the weight of 1,000 alien eyes watching him. Some looked curious, others looked afraid, but most looked angry. Humans were not popular in Council space these days. The meeting room was enormous. Hundreds of aliens sat in curved rows that reached up toward the ceiling like a giant bowl. At the bottom, in the center, was a small platform where the human representatives would stand. It reminded Lee Dae-hyun of a gladiator arena from old Earth movies. Dr. Park Min-ji was already waiting on the platform. She was humanity's best diplomat, a small woman with kind eyes who could speak 17 alien languages. Next to her stood Admiral Cho Sun-woo, the man who commanded all human naval forces. He looked as uncomfortable as Lee Dae-hyun felt. "Welcome, humans," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The sound made Lee Dae-hyun's bones vibrate. He looked up and saw Counselor Velthar floating above the crowd. The alien was like nothing from Earth's nightmares, a thing of shadow and light that changed shape as it moved. "Thank you for having us," Dr. Park Min-ji replied in perfect Council standard. Her voice was calm, but Lee Dae-hyun could see her hands shaking slightly. "We did not invite you," Velthar said. "We summoned you. There is a difference." The crowd of aliens made sounds that might have been laughter or might have been growls. Lee Dae-hyun couldn't tell. Velthar began to speak, and as it did, images appeared in the air above the platform. The first image showed a human colony ship landing on a green planet, then another ship, and another. Soon the images showed hundreds of human worlds spread across the galaxy. 50 years ago, Velthar said, humans were a young species confined to one small system. Today they control over 300 worlds. They expand faster than any species in galactic history. They take what they want and ask permission later. Admiral Cho Sun-woo stepped forward. "Those worlds were empty when we found them. We didn't take them from anyone." "Empty according to your limited understanding," another voice said. This came from Counselor Kethran, a being that looked like a giant insect made of metal. "You humans see a world without cities and think it belongs to no one. You do not understand the sacred migration paths of the wanderer species. You do not respect the breeding grounds of the star swimmers." Dr. Park Min-ji raised her hand. "We have always been willing to share worlds with other species. Our colonies welcome anyone who wants to live in peace." The alien crowd erupted in angry sounds. Velthar raised something that might have been a hand, and they became quiet again. "Yes," Velthar said, "you share your worlds, but not as subjects share with their masters. You treat other species as equals. This breaks the natural order of things." Lee Dae-hyun felt his anger rising. "What's wrong with treating others as equals?" "Everything," Kethran clicked. "For millions of years the strong have ruled the weak. The advanced guide the primitive. It is the way of the galaxy. But humans give weapons to their enemies. They teach primitive species to build starships. They offer citizenship to species that should be slaves." New images appeared in the air. Lee Dae-hyun saw human soldiers fighting alongside aliens he recognized. The Kepler people who looked like dolphins with hands. The crystal beings called Resonance, the insect-like collective that thought with one shared mind. Look at this, Velthar said with disgust. Humans fighting to defend species they barely know. Humans dying for aliens who cannot even breathe the same air. It is madness. It's called friendship, Dr. Park Minji said quietly. It is called chaos, Velthar replied. Your commonwealth grows stronger every year. More species join your alliance. They learn to resist their proper place in the galactic order. Soon every primitive species will think they deserve freedom. Every slave race will demand rights. You humans are a disease that threatens everything we have built. Admiral Cho Sunwoo stepped forward, his face red with anger. If what you've built requires keeping others as slaves, then maybe it deserves to be torn down. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop working. Lee Dae-hyun realized that the Admiral had just declared war on the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Velthar floated down until it was level with the platform. When it spoke, its voice was like ice. We offered you a choice, humans. Submit to council authority. Accept your place in the proper order. Allow us to guide your expansion and correct your mistakes. But I see now that you are too proud to accept. Wisdom. Dr. Park Minji stepped forward. We're not proud. We're free. And we believe everyone deserves to be free. Freedom. Velthar repeated the word like it tasted bad. You speak of freedom while you destroy the peace of millions. Very well. The council has voted. If humans will not accept guidance, then humans will face correction. What does that mean? Lee Dae-hyun demanded. Velthar turned to look at him. Directly, its eyes were like black holes. It means, Commander, that in 72 hours the Council will activate the erasure protocol. Your species will be removed from the galaxy as cleanly as a surgeon removes a cancer. Your worlds will be as if they never existed. Your ships will vanish from space. Your very atoms will be scattered across dimensions where they can cause no more harm. Dr. Park Minji went pale. You're talking about genocide. We're talking about surgery, Catherine said. The galaxy will heal once the human infection is gone. The meeting was over. Guards escorted the humans back to their ships while the alien crowd chanted something that sounded like victory songs. As Lee Dae-hyun walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, he felt like he was walking through a tomb, his own tomb. Back aboard the Iron Wolf, his crew waited for orders. They could see the fear in his eyes, but they also saw something else. Determination. Send a message to all human worlds, Lee Dae-hyun said. Tell them the Council has declared war on freedom itself. Tell them we have 72 hours to prepare for the fight of our lives. As his ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying the warning, to humanity's scattered colonies, Lee Dae-hyun looked back at Nexus Prime one last time. The aliens thought they had won before the battle even started. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Kim Jae-ho was drinking coffee when reality broke apart. He was sitting on the bridge of his research ship, the Aegis, reading reports from the outer colonies. The ship was stationed near the edge of human space, studying strange energy, readings that had been appearing for the past few months. The readings made no sense according to normal physics, but Kim Jae-ho had learned that normal physics didn't always apply when dealing with alien technology. Captain, called Lieutenant Commander Nam Hyunwoo from the sensor station, I'm picking up massive energy spikes from the direction of the inner colonies. Kim Jae-ho set down his coffee cup. How massive? Off the charts, sir. It's like someone just lit up a dozen suns all at once. Before Kim Jae-ho could respond, the main screen filled with light. Then the light twisted, bent, and tore open like someone was ripping a hole in a piece of paper. Through the hole, Kim Jae-ho could see nothing. Not empty space. Just nothing. What in the hell is that? Whispered engineer Han Soo-young. Nam Hyunwoo was working frantically at his console. Sir, I'm getting emergency signals from the Centauri colonies. They say space itself is falling apart. Whole star systems are just disappearing. Kim Jae-ho felt ice in his stomach. The Council's weapon. Sir? They said they would erase us. I thought they meant with bombs or energy weapons, but this... Kim Jae-ho stared at the growing tear in space. They're not destroying us. They're making it so we never existed. The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Cho Sun-woo's voice came through, but it was broken up with static. All ships, immediate evacuation. Protocol 7 is in effect. Rendezvous point Omega. God help us all. The signal cut out. Kim Jae-ho tried to call back, but there was no response. According to the sensors, the entire inner system where Admiral Cho had been stationed was now empty space. Captain, Han Soo-young said, her voice shaking, I'm reading the energy signature of that weapon. It's not using normal physics. It's some kind of dimensional technology. It's not just destroying matter. It's removing it from this reality entirely. Kim. Jae-ho nodded. He had expected something like this. For months, their intelligence networks had been reporting strange council activities. Ships moving to unknown locations. Scientists disappearing. Resources being diverted to secret projects. Nam Hyun-woo had warned that the council was planning something big, but nobody had imagined anything like this. How long do we have? Kim Jae-ho asked. Nam Hyun-woo was studying the expanding tiers in space. At this rate, the weapon will reach our position in about 6 hours. But Captain, I don't think running away is going to help. The tiers are spreading in all directions. They're going to cover all of human space. Kim Jae-ho closed his eyes. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were dying. Not just dying, being erased. As if they had never been born. He thought about his sister on New Sol, his parents on Terra Nova, his friends scattered across dozens of colonies. Were they already gone? Or were they watching the sky tear apart knowing they had nowhere to run? Sir, Han Soo-young said quietly, there might be something we can do. Kim Jae-ho opened his eyes. Talk to me. I've been studying the energy readings from this weapon for weeks. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I've been collecting data. The weapon needs anchor points to work properly. It can't just erase everything at once. It has to create stable tiers first, then expand them. Go on. The anchor points are vulnerable. If we could disrupt them somehow. Nam Hyun-woo looked up from his sensors. It wouldn't stop the weapon, but it might slow it down. Give our people time to evacuate. Kim Jae-ho felt a spark of hope. What would we need? Han Soo-young was already pulling up technical diagrams. The research we've been doing out here, the dimensional studies, we've actually been developing technology that could work against this weapon. We never intended it as a weapon, just as a way to study parallel dimensions, but if we modified it, how long? Give me 4 hours and I can build something that might disrupt one of their anchor points. Kim Jae-ho looked at the screen where the tiers in space were getting bigger every minute. 4 hours was cutting it close, but it might be their only chance. Do it, he said. For the next 4 hours, the crew of the Aegis worked like their lives depended on it. Which they did. Han Soo-young and her engineering team converted their dimensional research equipment into something that had never existed before. A weapon that could fight against the erasure of reality itself. Meanwhile, Nam Hyun-woo coordinated with the few human ships that were still in communication range. Most of the fleet was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. As if it had never existed. But some ships on the outer edges were still functioning, still fighting to save whoever they could. Captain, called the communications officer. I'm getting a signal from the Last Hope. It's Admiral Cho Sun-woo. Kim Jae-ho felt relief wash over him. At least some of the fleet was still alive. Put him through. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than Kim Jae-ho remembered, as if he had aged years in the past few hours. Captain Kim, thank God you're still alive. What's your status? We're working on a way to disrupt the weapon, sir. My engineer thinks we can slow it down. Admiral Cho nodded. Good. We need all the time we can get. I've been in contact with the outer colonies, the ones that are still there. We're organizing a complete evacuation to the far rim of the galaxy. It's our only chance. What about Earth, sir? Admiral Cho's face went dark. Earth was the first target. It's gone, Captain. Along with most of the inner colonies, billions of people just erased. Kim Jae-ho felt sick. Earth, the birth world of humanity, was gone. Not destroyed. Erased. As if it had never existed. "Sir?" Han Soo-young called from her station. "The device is ready." Kim Jae-ho turned to the Admiral. "We're going to try to hit one of their anchor points. It might not work, but do whatever you can, Captain. Every minute you buy us saves more lives." The screen went dark. Kim Jae-ho turned to his crew. They were looking at him with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew they were probably going to die, but they were ready to try anyway. "Take us in," Kim Jae-ho ordered. The Aegis flew toward the nearest dimensional tear. As they got closer, the ship started to shake. The tear was pulling at them, trying to drag them into the nothing beyond. Firing the disruptor, Han Soo-young announced. A beam of energy shot out from their ship and hit the edge of the tear. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the tear started to flicker like a bad video signal. "It's working!" Nam Hyun-woo shouted. "The tear is destabilizing." But their victory was short-lived. 3 Council warships appeared out of nowhere, their weapons already charging. "They found us," Kim Jae-ho said grimly. "All hands prepare for battle." The Aegis was a research ship, not a warship. Against 3 Council vessels, they didn't stand a chance. But as the enemy weapons fired, Kim Jae-ho realized something important. The Council ships were having trouble too. The dimensional weapon was affecting their technology as well. Their shots went wild, missing the Aegis by wide margins. They can't control their own weapon perfectly, he realized. It's affecting everyone, not just humans. That gave him an idea. A dangerous, crazy idea. "Han Soo-young," he called. "Can you reverse the polarity on that disruptor?" "Sir, instead of stabilizing the dimensional tear, can you make it bigger?" Han Soo-young's eyes went wide as she understood what he was suggesting. "Captain, that could tear apart this entire system." Kim Jae-ho smiled grimly, "Including those Council ships. But it could also tear apart us." "Better to die fighting than to be erased," Kim Jae-ho said. "Do it." Han Soo-young's hands flew over her controls. The beam from their ship changed color, from blue to angry red. When it hit the dimensional tear, the effect was immediate and terrifying. The tear exploded outward like a rip in a balloon. Space twisted and warped as reality bent in ways it was never meant to bend. The 3 Council ships were caught in the expanding chaos, their hulls stretching and distorting before they simply vanished. The Aegis was thrown backward by the shockwave, its hull groaning under stresses that shouldn't exist. But somehow, they survived. "Damage report," Kim Jae-ho called as the ship stopped shaking. "Hull integrity at 60%, Han Soo-young reported. "But Captain, look at this." On the screen, the dimensional tear was still there. But now it was different. Instead of expanding and consuming everything, it was fluctuating wildly, sometimes shrinking, sometimes growing. "The weapon is losing stability," Nam Hyun-woo reported. "Whatever we did, it's affecting the entire network." Kim Jae-ho felt hope for the first time in hours. The Council thought their weapon was perfect, unstoppable. But they had made a mistake. They had made it too powerful, too complex, and now it was starting to turn against them. "Send a message to all surviving human ships," Kim Jae-ho ordered. "Tell them we've found a weakness in their weapon. Tell them humanity isn't finished yet." Dr. Park Min-ji stood in the command center of the hidden base, looking at the holographic display that showed what was left of human space. Red zones marked areas where the Council's weapon had already struck. Those places were just empty now, not destroyed but gone completely, as if they had never existed. The base was built inside a dead asteroid in the outer rim, far from any major shipping lanes. It had been constructed in secret over the past 5 years, part of a project that most people thought was just mining research. Only a few dozen humans knew it existed, and now those few dozen might be all that stood between humanity and complete extinction. "How many survivors?" she asked General Yoon Tae-hyung. The general looked tired. He had been coordinating rescue operations for 3 days straight, ever since the Council's attack began. 200 million confirmed, maybe another 50 million, in ships we haven't been able to contact yet. Dr. Park Min-ji closed her eyes. 250 million survivors out of 8 billion humans. The Council's weapon had been more effective than even their worst nightmares. "That's not enough," she said quietly. "It's what we have," replied Dr. Shin Yoonji from her position at the technical station. The quantum physicist looked like she hadn't slept in days. "And if we're going to make this work, we need to start now." Ambassador Kang Ji-hoon walked into the room, carrying a data pad with the latest reports from their scout ships. His diplomat's uniform was dirty and torn. He had been helping with refugee operations instead of sitting in meetings. "The Council thinks they've won," he said. "Their broadcasts are calling it a successful surgical procedure. They're already talking about how to divide up our former territory." General Yoon Tae-hyung slammed his fist on the table. "Surgical procedure? They murdered 8 billion people." "They erased 8 billion people," Dr. Shin Yoonji corrected. "There's a difference. In their minds, those people never existed, so they didn't really kill them." Dr. Park Minji had been thinking about this for days. The Council's weapon was more horrible than simple death. It removed people from reality itself as if they had never been born, but there was something about that process that gave her hope. "Yoonji," she said, "you've been studying the weapon data that Captain Kim sent us. How exactly does it work?" Dr. Shin Yoonji brought up a new display showing the technical analysis. "It creates tears in the fabric of space-time, but not random tears. The tears follow specific patterns like cracks in glass. The weapon needs anchor points to control where and how the cracks spread. And these anchor points? They're located on the Council's core worlds, 12 of them, connected by quantum entanglement. The weapon can only work if all 12 anchors remain stable." General Yoon Tae-hyung leaned forward. "So if we destroy the anchors, we can't destroy them," Dr. Shin Yoonji said. "They're protected by the most powerful defenses in the galaxy. But..." She paused, looking at her calculations again. "We might be able to turn them against each other." Ambassador Kang Ji-hoon raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Dr. Shin Yoonji began, drawing diagrams in the air with her hands. "The anchors are designed to work together, sending coordinated pulses that create controlled dimensional tears. But what if we could make them send uncontrolled pulses? What if we could turn their own weapon back on them?" Dr. Park Minji felt her heart racing. "You're talking about using their weapon to erase Council space?" "I'm talking about justice," Dr. Shin Yoonji said firmly. "They decided that entire species could be erased for the crime of being free. Let's see how they like it when their own weapon targets them." General Yoon Tae-hyung was studying the technical plans. "What would we need?" "Quantum amplifiers, Doctor," Shin Yoonji replied. "Massive ones. We'd need to build at least 6 of them and position them in the ruins of our destroyed colonies. The amplifiers would intercept the weapon's signal and reflect it back along the quantum entanglement links." "How long would it take?" 6 weeks if we work around the clock and use every resource we have left." Ambassador Kang Ji-hoon looked worried. 6 weeks? The Council will notice what we're doing long before then." Dr. Shin Yoonji smiled grimly. "Not if we're building them in the dead zones. The areas where their weapon has already struck are filled with dimensional interference. Their sensors can't penetrate it properly. They'll think we're just scavenging in the ruins." Dr. Park Minji realized what the physicist was suggesting. "You want to build our weapons in the graveyards of our own people." "I want to build our weapons where our people died," Dr. Shin Yoonji corrected. "Where they were erased. Every amplifier will be powered by the quantum echoes of the lives they destroyed. In a way, our dead will help us fight back." The room fell silent. The plan was audacious, beyond anything they had ever attempted. They would be betting the survival of humanity on untested technology, built in hostile environments, by people who were barely holding together emotionally. "There's something else," Dr. Shin Yoonji continued. "The amplification process will create a feedback loop. When we activate the system, it will release more energy than any weapon in galactic history. The dimensional tears it creates won't stop at the Council worlds. They'll spread throughout this entire region of space. General Yoon Tae-hyung understood immediately. We'll die too. Everyone within 1,000 light-years will die. Humans, council species, everyone. Dr. Park Min-ji looked around the room at her companions. These were good people. People who had spent their lives trying to build bridges between species, trying to create a better galaxy for everyone. Now they were being asked to destroy half that galaxy to save what remained. There has to be another way, she said. Ambassador Kang Ji-hoon shook his head. I've been thinking about this for days. The council made their position clear. They don't just want to defeat us. They want to erase the very idea of us. They want to remove the concept of freedom from the galaxy. If we don't stop them, they'll hunt down every human survivor, every alien species that ever worked with us, every world that ever welcomed our refugees. He's right, General Yoon Tae-hyung added. This isn't just about saving humanity anymore. This is about saving the idea that different species can live together as equals. Dr. Park Min-ji thought about the friends she had made over the years. The Kepler people who had taught her to swim in their underwater cities. The resonant crystals who had shown her how to communicate through harmonic frequencies. The collective, minds who had shared their thoughts with her in ways no human had ever experienced. Many of those friends were already dead, erased by the Council's weapon. The survivors were scattered and hiding, waiting to see if humanity would find a way to fight back. If we do this, she said slowly, we become just like them. We become destroyers instead of builders. No, Ambassador Kang Ji-hoon said firmly. They chose to erase billions of innocent people because they were afraid of freedom. We're choosing to stop them from erasing billions more. There's a difference. Dr. Shin Yoonji was already working on the technical specifications. I'll need teams of engineers and physicists. We'll have to split into 6 groups, each responsible for one amplifier. General Yoon Tae-hyung nodded. I can provide security and logistics, but Yoonji, are you absolutely certain this will work? The physicist paused in her work. No, I'm not certain of anything anymore. The mathematics are solid, but we're dealing with forces that no one has ever used before. We could succeed in destroying the Council, or we could accidentally tear apart half the galaxy, or we could just blow ourselves up and accomplish nothing. Those aren't very encouraging odds, General Yoon Tae-hyung said. They're the only odds we have, Dr. Park Min-ji replied. The Council made their choice when they pressed that button. Now we have to make ours. She looked around the room one more time. Anyone who wants to leave can go now. Find a ship, head for the far rim of the galaxy, try to start over somewhere else. I won't think less of anyone who chooses survival over revenge. Nobody moved. Ambassador Kang Ji-hoon spoke for all of them. We didn't choose this fight, but we're not going to run from it either. The Council wanted to erase the idea of freedom from the galaxy. Let's show them what free people can do when they're pushed too far. Dr. Park Min-ji nodded. Then we do this. God help us all, we do this. Over the next 6 weeks, teams of humans worked in the ruins of their own civilization. They built the amplifiers in the dead zones where entire star systems had been erased, powered by the quantum echoes of 8 billion murdered souls. The Council's sensors couldn't penetrate the dimensional interference to see what they were doing. The few scout ships that tried to investigate found nothing but empty space and scavenging operations. The Council never realized that humanity was building the largest weapon in galactic history right under their nose, powered by the ghosts of the people they had killed. When the last amplifier was completed, Dr. Park Min-ji stood in the command center and looked at the activation switch. Once she pressed it, there would be no going back. The weapon would either destroy the Council or destroy everything. She pressed the button. Captain Lee Min-seo watched the Council fleet approach through the swirling chaos of broken space-time. Her ship, the Defiant Star, was the last line of defense for Amplifier Station Alpha. If the Council destroyed this station, humanity's desperate plan would fail before it could even begin. How many ships? She asked her tactical officer. 47 Council vessels, Captain, dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, and fighter squadrons. They're having trouble navigating through the dimensional interference, but they're getting closer. Lee Min-seo nodded. The dimensional tiers created by the Council's own weapon were working in humanity's favor, making it almost impossible for large fleets to coordinate properly. But 47 ships against her small defense force was still terrible odds. "What about our allies?" she asked. "The Kepler squadron is holding position near Station Beta. The resonant crystals are providing power amplification for Station Gamma, and the collective has sent 3 hive ships to protect Station Delta." Lee Min-seo felt a surge of pride. Even after everything that had happened, even after the Council had tried to erase humanity from existence, their alien friends were still fighting beside them. The Council had called it madness when humans treated other species as equals. Now that madness might be the only thing that could save the galaxy. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Oh Ji-won from her position at the power control station. "I'm reading massive energy buildups from all 6 amplifier stations. Dr. Shin's calculations were correct. We're on schedule for synchronized activation in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Lee Min-seo looked out at the approaching Council fleet and wondered if they had 30 minutes. The enemy ships were moving slowly through the dimensional chaos, but they were still moving. "Commander Park Dong-wook," she called to her weapons officer. "What's our defensive capability?" Park Dong-wook looked up from his console. "We have 18 ships, Captain. Mostly converted cargo vessels and research ships, against 47 military vessels." He shrugged. "We'll make them pay for every meter, but we can't win a straight fight." "Then we don't fight a straight fight," Lee Min-seo said. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "All vessels, this is Captain Lee. We're not here to win a battle, we're here to buy time, 30 minutes, that's all we need." She switched to the general frequency that connected all 6 amplifier stations. "This is Alpha Station, status report. Beta, station operational. Kepler forces engaging enemy scouts. Gamma station online. Resonant crystals at maximum harmonic efficiency. Delta station ready. Collective hive minds report perfect coordination. Echo station armed. Human engineering. Teams report all systems green. Zulu station active, mixed crew ready for final activation sequence." Lee Min-seo felt a chill. 6 stations, scattered across what used to be the heart of human space. Each one built in the ruins of destroyed colonies, powered by the quantum echoes of the dead. Each one defended by whoever could be spared from the pitiful remnants of humanity and their allies. "Dr. Shin," she called on the priority channel. "How long until activation?" The physicist's voice crackled through the dimensional interference. 28 minutes, Captain, but there's something you need to know. I've been running final calculations, and the energy release is going to be even more violent than we predicted." "How much more violent?" "The feedback loop will create a cascading dimensional collapse, not just in this region. It will spread along every quantum entanglement link in the galaxy. Every species that uses faster-than-light communication, every world connected to the galactic network, will feel the effects." Lee Min-seo felt her blood go cold. "You're saying we'll destroy more than just the Council?" "I'm saying we'll reshape the fundamental structure of this galaxy. Species that survive will find themselves in a very different universe." Chief Engineer Oh Ji-won looked up from her controls. "Captain, if the energy release is that powerful, what happens to us?" Dr. Shin's answer was quiet but clear. "Everyone at the amplifier stations will be vaporized instantly. Everyone within 500 light-years will die within hours as space-time collapses around them. Everyone within 1,000 light-years will face massive gravitational distortions and radiation storms." The bridge fell silent. Lee Min-seo had known they were probably going to die, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. They weren't just sacrificing themselves to stop the Council. They were gambling with the lives of trillions of beings across the galaxy. "Captain," Park Dong-wook said quietly, "we could abort. We could try to find another way." Lee Min-seo thought about that. They could shut down the amplifiers, evacuate the stations, try to run and hide in some distant part of the galaxy, but the Council would find them eventually, and when they did, there would be another genocide, another erasure, another species wiped from existence for the crime of believing in freedom. "No," she said. "The Council made their choice when they decided that 8 billion human lives were worth less than their political control. Now we make our choice." She opened the communication channel to all stations. "All teams, this is Captain Lee Min-seo. Dr. Shin has informed us that our weapon will be more powerful than originally calculated. The energy release will affect the entire galaxy. We're not just stopping the Council. We're changing the fundamental nature of galactic civilization. She paused, thinking about how to say what needed to be said. Some of you might think that gives us the right to stop. Some of you might think we don't have the authority to make decisions that affect trillions of lives. And you know what? You're right. We don't have that authority. But the Council took that authority when they decided to commit genocide. They opened this door. We're just walking through it. "Captain," called the communications officer, "the Council fleet is accelerating. They'll be in weapons range in 15 minutes. Lee Min-seo looked at her crew. They were scared, but they were determined. They had signed up to explore the stars and build bridges between species. Now they were preparing to die to save the idea of freedom itself. "Dr. Shin," she called, "can we accelerate the activation sequence?" "Not without risking a cascade failure. We need 25 more minutes for the quantum fields to stabilize properly. Then we hold for 25 minutes. Lee Min-seo turned to her crew. "All ships, prepare for defensive action. Use the dimensional interference to your advantage. Hit and run, then disappear into the chaos. Don't try to be heroes, just buy us time." The first Council ships emerged from the swirling dimensional storm like sharks coming out of murky water. They were massive vessels, each one larger than Lee Min-seo's entire defense force. Their weapons began charging immediately. "Here they come," Park Dong-wook announced. "All ships, weapons free." The battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Ships appeared and disappeared in the dimensional chaos, firing at targets they could barely see through the twisted spacetime. The Council fleet had overwhelming firepower, but they couldn't use it effectively in the unstable environment. Lee Min-seo watched as the Brave Heart, a converted cargo ship crewed by human refugees, rammed itself into a Council dreadnought. Both ships vanished into a dimensional rift, taking each other into whatever lay beyond normal space. "Station Beta is under heavy attack," reported the communications officer. "The Kepler forces are taking casualties. Station Gamma reports resonant crystals going dark. They're being overwhelmed." Lee Min-seo felt each loss like a physical blow. These weren't just military units. They were friends, allies, people who had chosen to stand with humanity, even when it meant certain death. 15 minutes to activation," Chief Engineer Oh Ji-won called out. The Council fleet was getting closer. More human ships were dying every minute. Lee Min-seo realized they weren't going to make it. Then something unexpected happened. Space around, the Council fleet began to ripple and distort in new ways. The dimensional chaos was getting worse, not better. "Captain," Oh Ji-won said with excitement in her voice, "the amplifiers are starting to resonate with each other. The quantum fields are beginning to synchronize early." "What does that mean?" "It means the weapon is becoming self-sustaining. Even if they destroy some of the stations now, the process will continue." Lee Min-seo felt hope for the first time in hours. "How much time do we need now?" 10 minutes. Maybe less. The Council commander must have realized what was happening because the enemy fleet suddenly changed tactics. Instead of trying to fight through the dimensional chaos, they began firing everything they had at the amplifier stations themselves. Energy beams lanced through the twisted space-time, striking Station Delta. The entire facility vanished in a burst of light, taking the collective hive ships with it. "Station Delta is gone," the communications officer reported. "Doesn't matter," Oh Ji-won said grimly. "The resonance is established. 5 stations are enough." Another barrage struck Station Echo. It held for a moment, then collapsed into a dimensional singularity. Station Echo destroyed. "Still doesn't matter. 4 stations will work." Lee Min-seo realized what was happening. The Council was destroying the amplifier stations one by one, but each destruction was adding more energy to the quantum field. The explosions were feeding the very weapon they were trying to stop. 5 minutes to activation, Oh Ji-won announced. "Captain," Park Dong-wook called out. Admiral Cho Sun-woo emerged from the emergency bunker 3 days after reality had finished reshaping itself. The underground facility had been built in an asteroid belt far from any major star systems. designed to survive almost anything the galaxy could throw at it. But even here, buried deep in solid rock, they had felt the universe change around them. The first thing he noticed was the silence. For his entire career, space had been filled with the constant chatter of faster-than-light communications, ships talking to bases, colonies reporting to governments, the endless flow of data that connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Now there was nothing, just empty quiet that stretched across the stars. "Status report," he called to Dr. Lim Seo-young, the xenobiologist who had become his chief science officer during the long months of hiding. "The quantum entanglement network that connected the galaxy is completely gone," she said, looking at her instruments with a mixture of wonder and horror. "Every FTL communication relay, every hyperspace beacon, every instantaneous data link has been severed. It's like someone cut all the telephone lines in the galaxy at once." Admiral Cho nodded. He had expected something like this. The weapon they had built was designed to follow quantum entanglement links back to their sources. When it activated, it had traveled along every connection in the galactic network, reaching every world that had ever been part of the Council's communication system. "What about life signs?" he asked. Captain Bei Jaewon looked up from the long-range sensors. "That's the strange part, sir. Most worlds are still there. Most species seem to have survived. But the big government centers, the core Council worlds, the major military bases, they're just gone." Admiral Cho felt a mixture of relief and guilt. They had set out to destroy the Council, but he had feared they might accidentally destroy everyone else too. It seemed that the weapon had been more precise than Dr. Shin had calculated. "How precise?" he asked. Dr. Lim Seo-young brought up a galactic map on the main screen. Red dots marked areas where worlds had been completely erased. Yellow dots showed areas where the dimensional effects had caused major damage but not total destruction. Green dots indicated worlds that seemed to be largely untouched. "The weapon followed the authority links," she explained. "Every world that was directly controlled by the Council government is gone. Every major military command center has been erased. But the civilian populations, the independent colonies, the species that were conquered but never fully integrated into the Council system, most of them survived." Admiral Cho studied the map. It was exactly what they had hoped for and exactly what they had feared. The galaxy's political structure had been completely destroyed, but billions of innocent people were still alive. "What about our people?" he asked quietly. Captain Bei Jaewon consulted his reports. "We're getting signals from human colonies on the outer rim. Maybe 50 million survivors total. Not many, but more than we expected after the Council's attack. 50 million humans out of the 8 billion who had existed before the war." Admiral Cho closed his eyes and tried not to think about the cost. They had saved the idea of freedom, but they had paid a terrible price for it. "Sir," Dr. Lim Seo-young called. "You need to see this." She had brought up a new display showing energy, readings from across the galaxy. Strange patterns of light were moving between star systems, following paths that didn't match any known physics. "What am I looking at?" Admiral Cho asked. "The dimensional tiers didn't just destroy things," Dr. Lim Seo-young explained. "They also created new connections, wormholes, space-time bridges, quantum tunnels that link distant parts of the galaxy in ways that never existed before." Captain Bei Jaewon was studying the readings with excitement. "Sir, some of these tunnels lead to completely unexplored regions of space, areas beyond the edge of the galaxy that we never even knew existed." Admiral Cho realized what they were saying. The weapon hadn't just destroyed the old galactic order. It had opened doorways to entirely new frontiers. "There's something else," Dr. Lim Seo-young continued. "We're detecting signals from some of our allied species. The Kepler people, the resonance, the collective fragments. They're not just alive, they're thriving. The dimensional chaos that killed the Council species seems to have enhanced their abilities somehow." On the screen, she showed images transmitted by their Kepler friends. The dolphin-like beings were swimming through space itself, moving between stars without ships, riding the gravitational currents that the dimensional tiers had created. The resonant crystals had grown to enormous sizes, their harmonic frequencies now capable of reshaping matter on a planetary scale. They were building new worlds, new structures that defied everything Admiral Cho thought he knew about engineering. The collective had done something even more remarkable. The hive mind species had somehow spread their consciousness across multiple star systems, creating a distributed intelligence that could think with the processing power of entire solar systems. They're all different now, Dr. Lim So-young said. The dimensional effects changed them, evolved them, gave them new abilities. But they remember their friendship with humanity. They're sending messages, asking if we need help. Admiral Cho felt tears in his eyes. After everything that had happened, after all the death and destruction, their friends still remembered. The bonds they had built with other species had survived even the reshaping of the galaxy itself. "Send replies," he ordered. "Tell them we're grateful and that we're ready to start rebuilding." Over the following months, Admiral Cho watched as a new galactic civilization began to emerge from the ruins of the old one. It was nothing like what had existed before. Without the Council's rigid hierarchy, without the central government that had controlled everything, thousands of different species began experimenting with new forms of cooperation. The humans who had survived found themselves in a unique position. They were no longer the young, expanding species that the Council had feared. They were the experienced survivors who had paid the ultimate price to preserve freedom. Other species looked to them for guidance, not because they demanded it, but because they had earned it through sacrifice. Captain Bei Jaewon led the first exploration missions through the new dimensional tunnels. His ships discovered worlds of unimaginable beauty, star systems where the laws of physics worked differently, entire regions of space where consciousness itself seemed to be a fundamental force. Dr. Lim So-young established the New Terra Institute, a research center dedicated to understanding the transformed galaxy. Scientists from dozens of species worked together, sharing knowledge freely in ways that would have been impossible under the Council's system. Admiral Cho himself took on a new role as coordinator of the Galactic Recovery Alliance. It wasn't a government in the old sense. No one species ruled over the others. Instead, it was a loose confederation of equals, working together because they chose to, not because they were forced to. The work was hard. Many worlds were struggling to rebuild after losing their connections to the larger galactic economy. Some species were trying to establish their own empires in the power vacuum left by the Council's destruction. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, and moments when Admiral Cho wondered if they had made the right choice. But then he would receive a message from a newly liberated world, thanking humanity for giving them the chance to be free. Or he would watch human children playing with alien children on one of the mixed colonies, learning from each other in ways their parents never could. Or he would see one of the new dimensional phenomena, a rainbow bridge of solid light connecting two distant stars, or a nebula that sang in harmonious frequencies that could be heard across space. One day, nearly 5 years after the weapon had activated, Admiral Cho stood in the observation deck of New Terra Station, looking out at the transformed galaxy. Dr. Park Min-ji joined him. She had survived the war by being on a diplomatic mission to the far rim when the weapon activated. Now she served as the Alliance's chief coordinator for interspecies relations. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. Admiral Cho thought about the question. 8 billion humans had died. Trillions of other beings had lost their lives when their worlds were erased or torn apart by dimensional chaos. The old galactic civilization, with all its flaws, was gone forever. But he also thought about the messages they received every day from worlds that were free for the first time in millennia. He thought about the new technologies being developed, through cooperation instead of conquest. He thought about the young beings, human and alien alike, who were growing up in a galaxy where freedom was taken for granted instead of being a revolutionary concept. "No," he said finally. "The Council made their choice when they decided that genocide was acceptable. We made ours when we decided that freedom was worth any price. I can live with our choice." Dr. Park Min-ji nodded. "The children ask me sometimes why the old Council hated us so much. What do you tell them?" Admiral Cho smiled. "I tell them that the Council was afraid of change, afraid of equality, afraid of the idea that different species could work together as friends instead of as masters and slaves. They thought that by erasing us, they could erase that idea too. And what happened instead?